One day.
Isn't that great? Oh man.
Where'd I have to go to listen to that?
Hard part about this presentation by the county is making sure you don't ask any questions.
I don't think we're
Knows
smart
what?
enough to do
Knows what? Good morning. Let me come out.
Since the day we toured the property, we drove up these every single time. That water is so heavy. But it's here. ADOT, we're working together, the neighbors, and ADOT. So, thank you so much.
All right. They're not as cold as we'd like, but
That's all right.
Evening, how are you?
Doing good.
yeah. Sorry it's not rum or something better.
I'll pay you back, you get water.
Next time around it'll be blended drinks. How about that? It's not chocolate in my face.
Good morning, sir, how are you? You're looking spiffy tonight?
I got 3 days that I didn't shave my head. You did. I did shave.
I saw that.
It's first of the month. It's time to shave.
Char's coming next, bro. Yeah, Char next.
No, that's it. Last Saturday of the month. You got
That's
it.
it, that's,
It's kind of like when you were in the Navy. You know, the shower really have water.
that's right. And if you didn't get there, it's tough.
And you must be quick because sometimes rain show.
That's right. If you're aboard ship, and you were launching airplanes, there wasn't any water for hours. You better be there when the water's there, or you take a Navy shower. Yeah.
And pretty soon you had cold water coming to you.
Yeah.
If you weren't early, you just can't that much.
And they didn't really care whether you liked it or not. Right?
We're out in the fields with bathing streams.
Oh, yeah.
Rain was the best thing to do. It's usually wet.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Mr. Long.
Mr. Lon, how are you this evening?
Oh, yeah. Hello. What's your meeting for the foundation for the 4th of July?
When is the meeting?
Yeah, they think you're going to meet weekly now?
Yeah, we've gone to weekly. Carrie sent out a notice, an email, and I haven't gotten, I haven't talked to her, but I think we're still going to try to do something this week.
Good evening, and how are
Chris has
you?
been out sick.
I am here.
Reason I asked, because I was asking about their
Wanted to wait.
Jan, our TV girl, said it was, she hadn't heard nothing. We can advertise it. And we haven't done that. So I
I was going to bring it to the meeting, or you could bring it to the meeting.
Okay.
But there are things that I was trying to do for territorial things. I'm heavy, but it's stuff we need to do for the force also.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Any exposure we can get is good.
So, and that's free to us. It's free to our
Not necessarily.
It has the first aid penny out there, and the rest it goes in the after.
Maybe we ate before the meeting.
Okay. I'll, as soon as I talk to Todd and Chris, I'll give you a holler. Yeah, or I can just tell everybody.
Tell them.
Yeah.
If I'm not there, tell them, but it's just something that we have available.
Okay. And what channel is that?
They're very easy for a while. And
Oh, the TV channel. Okay.
What you're on every other week.
well, hello.
Hello. Doing okay?
Good.
I thought maybe
Long.
she was guarding my chair, so I thought maybe she was banning me.
No.
Is that carried over to
Then I could go home.
the church, World Life Church? Carrie Banks?
Carrie.
Yeah, okay, I know who she is.
Yeah, me too.
I know, I have two Carries. I just want to make sure I got a hold of the right one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Real good.
Sound like from New York. So we got a guy that's gonna bump your road, huh?
Yeah. That's okay. We if we can get him an answer, we'll get him an answer.
Where's he live?
And there's some trailer court. I didn't catch the name of it. So. But he said his road has not been graded, so at least it's not a. It's
In
not.
the town or the county?
That's what we're going to find out.
He's in the county. Craig Brown's here. We're talking
Yeah, yeah. If that's the case, yeah,
our lucky.
yeah, yeah. I would imagine so.
It's the first time asking if he would join us with the Dunkin' celebration of 4th of July.
Yeah? I've already put that out. I put it out on the radio the other day. Mayor's
Did
gonna do
you?
the duck thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You need to announce that one in the reports.
Yeah. That's on the street.
All right. All right. We got a couple more minutes in there. Almost done. Sec. This. These two.
Well, the press is here today.
Good. We gotta have that. All right. And you're good to do the invocation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Excellent. Let's go ahead and get her parked up here.
Kick the tires and light the fire.
I got 5:59. We'll be there in a second here. All right. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please rise and remove your hats for the invocation.
Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, bless this group as we gather here to do the business of the town of Chino Valley. Bless our families and help us make the right decision that will benefit the town of Chino Valley. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Ms. Hart, may we have the roll call, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Councilmember McKee. Here. Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Wojak.
Here.
Councilmember Hatch.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
The Vice Mayor Croft.
Here.
And Mayor Marley.
Here. Thank you. Introductions, presentations, and proclamations. The Board of Supervisors is moving forward with asking the voters to increase the jail district sales tax to 1/2 cent to a 1/2 cent at the November 4th, 2014 election. I believe Mr. Borden is going to be doing the presentation. Yes, sir. Come on up. And introduce yourself to our audience.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Phil Bordon. I'm the county administrator with Yavapai County. Tonight, I want to thank you for allowing us to come and present information to you regarding the jail district sales tax issue. In the audience, we have Sheriff Masher, who is here tonight with Chief Deputy John Russell, and you have, of course, Supervisor Craig Brown, also from the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors, in the audience here to answer any questions and provide you information as necessary. The format, Mayor, if it's okay with you, is for me just to provide a quick history and some information regarding the jail district, some financial analysis that the county's done regarding moving forward with asking the voters to look at the 1/2 cent sales tax. And with that, Sheriff Masher, of course, will provide information to the council regarding operational issues at the jail.
Okay, thank you.
Just doing a little history of the jail district. In 1999, the jail district was formed. It is a special district designated purely and solely for the funding of the construction and operation of the county jails. Following that year, when it was formed in 1999, the voters approved a 1/4 cent sales tax dedicated to fund that district's operation and construction of the jail system. That 1/4 cent sales tax was in for 20 years and expires in June 2020. Moving forward to 2004, that funding, the jail district expanded the Camp Verde jail to a 600-bed facility. You'll probably hear more from the sheriff about how that dealt with some of the overcrowding issues that the county's jails were experiencing at the time. Looking at some of the district finances following 2004 and the construction of the Camp Verde jail, the district started experiencing costs that were exceeding our revenues at that point, to the point where in 2007 and 2008, Yavapai County was contributing $3 million in addition to our normal maintenance of effort to the jail district out of our general fund. That was, of course, becoming a problem to sustain, and as you well know, we did have a closure of the Prescott jail following an election in 2009 that did not pass the 1/2 cent sales tax. Just talking about some of the benefits of a jail district, one of the things, as I mentioned, about the 2004 Camp Verde jail expansion is it did address some of the overcrowding and inmate and jail staff safety issues that were going on in the jails in Yavapai County. I'm sure you would appreciate that by having a jail district, prior to the jail district's formation, a city or town had to actually fund the prisoners from the cities or towns in our jail. Following the jail district, since it is funded through a sales tax, you as a city or town do not fund your prisoners within the jail system. And more importantly, you look at some of the sales tax-based revenue, and approximately 35%, we estimate, of that revenue comes from visitors in this county, therefore relieving property owners of a portion of the cost for the jail district and running the jails in Yavapai County. Just looking at some of the efforts Yavapai County and specifically also the Sheriff's Office have had regarding reducing inmate population and costs in the jail district. One of the things about a decade ago was instituted by the justice community in Yavapai County was early disposition court. That is a system by which early court proceedings are processed very quickly by coordinated effort of our judicial community as well as sheriff's office, getting inmates as quickly out as possible that don't need to be in our jail system. The sheriff has instituted copay systems, copay amounts for food and medical services. So if an inmate in there can afford to pay for certain services that he's receiving in our county jail system, they do pay for and offset the cost for that. Your sheriff has been very aggressive in jail rental of excess bed space over the years. I know, probably heard it before, but he has successfully brought revenues into the jail district by any excess beds available, putting in jail bed rental inmates from such organizations like U.S. Marshals Service. And the Restoration of Competency program, that's a program in 2008. Prior to 2008, the state funded the restoration of individuals in the county jail system that were unable to participate in their defense. As part of the state's way of balancing their budget, they shifted that cost to the county. The county was faced with paying $670 per day per inmate to the Arizona State Hospital. So the sheriff and county attorney's office worked together and developed an in-house program by which we contracted with our medical services provider, Wexford, and developed an in-house service that costs approximately a third of that, $240 per day per inmate. It also, by having it as an in-house service, has resulted in a shorter length of stay of the people in that program. And the last thing I always touch on is the jail medical services. The jail has contracted out their medical services with Wexford, and as part of that, it reduces the cost of having employees, county employees, doing that work. But more importantly, it also relieves us of all liabilities of claims and lawsuits associated with the jail related to the medical services provided to inmates, because that private company indemnifies the county from any claims that might occur for their services. Sheriff Scott Matcher over the last year, and specifically at the budget hearings recently, has stated that the Board of Directors needs to look at addressing the funding issue for the jail district because our jail is nearing capacity. He recommended during the budget hearings and has consistently recommended that we move forward with the construction of a new Prescott jail. Part of that is to provide for the long-term solution of the jail needs in the Prescott area. Something we always get hit with recently and over the last months when we started talking about the jail district is why not open the Prescott jail? Sheriff Masher can answer this in greater detail, but just in general terms, it would not meet the long-term needs of Yavapai County. It has limited number of beds available in it. It has the inability to expand the facility in the future. As you're aware, that is a facility that takes up half the floor on the second floor of the county's building on Gurley Street. And it has higher costs to operate and maintain due to the outdated design of that facility. And again, Sheriff Masher can expand on that. One of the things I always try to touch on in jail capacity, when we talk about the capacity of a jail, is classification of inmates has a great impact on the jail capacity. Classification, again, reflects the need to separate inmates by such things as gender, risk level, mental and physical health, and disciplinary segregation. One of the things that this provides or results in is when you talk about classification and you look at our Verde jail that has 600 beds, when we look at classification, we see that about 17% of your beds on average are not available for use. So that means when we look at a 600-bed facility, we actually think of it as a 498 to 500 beds available at that time. And that fluctuates up and down, as the sheriff can explain, based on what kind of inmates you have and their characteristics. This graph is a graph of historical jail population from 2008. The blue that is shown in here shows the county inmate populations. The green shows the bed rentals that I mentioned about the sheriff's office. And then the red is the restoration to competency inmates, or RTC inmates. That black line represents the amount of beds with classification available to the sheriff with the Camp Verde site. You can see as you look in the 2008 timeframe, right about there, you had a peak amount and the economy was going up. During the recession, we dropped somewhat in our county jail inmate population. But as you can see, as you start coming to today, it's trending up and the county population is starting to reach our maximum amount available in the Camp Verde jail system. This chart, looking at the last 4 years of our jail population and what we're going to end in 2004, we have seen an average of 3% annual increase, a little over 3% actually. So we took a 3% growth rate in our jail population. This does not include bed rentals, to show that very soon in the near future we're going to need additional beds to prevent overcrowding and inmate safety and jail staff safety issues. As part of our evaluation, we did a financial analysis on several conditions. They are the existing sales tax stays in place till 2020 and then expires. That is a 1/4 cent sales tax currently in place, as I mentioned, that was voted in 1999. The second one was, what if that existing sales tax that's a 1/4 cent was just extended out? And then the third one is, you increase the sales tax up to 1/2 cent based on financial need. And that is the maximum amount you can have by state law, by the way, on a jail district sales tax is 1/2 cent. The first analysis we did, again, about looking at the existing district sales tax expiring in 2020, this graph shows the additional general fund support required for the construction and operation of the Prescott Jail as well as the Camp Verde Jail. What this would result in is in 2019 you would probably see a $6 million amount that would be required to be funded out of the general fund, going up in 2021 to $13 million all the way to $19 million in 2030. You know, if that kind of amount of money out of our general fund, I don't have to tell you what kind of impact it would have on general services. But if the board was faced with and is faced with ultimately placing a jail in the Prescott area, they would have to look at how to solve that funding gap. And the next slide I toss on there shows one of the scenarios they would have to look at. They would have to look at increasing their primary property tax. Currently, the County Board of Supervisors is $6 million underneath their maximum levy limit for the primary property tax for this county. They have been conservative. They have kept it 15% underneath the available money. And of course, they would be faced with that option if they needed to. With that, the other option on top of that to make up the remaining amount of money necessary for the jail and the jail district would cause the reduction in existing general fund services. In general, you'd look at about 2021, you'd have an additional $7 million all the way up to approximately $13 million in 2030. So, you know, to make up the impact of a jail system with just the 1/4 cent sales tax, you would see the board be faced with decisions like raising a primary property tax and reducing general fund services. The second evaluation we did was just extending the 1/4 cent sales tax and extending that out for a period of time. Again, it currently ends in 2020, but you push that out however long. The impact to the jail district to construct the jail would be approximately $7.5 to $8.5 million of additional funding necessary to address that funding shortfall with this scenario. Again, the board would have to look at, do they increase the primary property tax to fund that? And do we look at reduction in general fund services of some type in the county? Neither of these two scenarios provide very good solutions, partly because When we talk about reducing general fund services, you have to realize that approximately half of our general fund funds courts and law enforcement. So all the deputies that are out there currently are funded through that portion of the general fund, all of the county attorney, the Superior Court, probation. So it would have an immediate effect on public safety. And I hazard to guess that's why the initial quarter-cent sales tax was placed on this as a sales tax for jail services. The third analysis, of course, is we just looked at increasing the current sales tax to the half-cent level, which is the maximum available by law. This, again, addresses the issue, requires no increase in the property tax levy or decrease in the general fund services. Just to summarize, I've kind of gone over the history of the jail tax, some of the benefits of the jail district, some of the efforts that we've had ongoing to reduce inmate costs and the population in the jail district. Sheriff Masher can speak in a few moments about the recommendation that he's made to construct a new Prescott jail. Discuss the reopening of the Prescott jail does not meet the long-term needs of the jail district. Went over some population and projections of adult detention, and more importantly, just went over the financial analysis that shows the need for the half-cent sales tax to address the Prescott jail construction, with the alternative being an increase in primary property taxes and reduction in general services to provide for the future needs of the jail. The jail proposal that the Board of Directors, which is the Board of Supervisors acting as the Board of Directors, is to ask voters to approve increasing the jail district sales tax up to a half-cent for 20 years. That is going to be placed on the November 4th, 2014 general election. Reason we're out talking to everybody is because early voting, of course, begins October 9th, and a majority of people in this county participate in the early voting activities. We are out doing a public information program. We're doing public outreach and presentations like tonight, which is to local jurisdictions like the town council of Chino Valley. We are meeting with community groups and organizations, service organizations. We've developed a website which went live yesterday. We're looking at brochures which are coming out possibly this week, and public service announcements to try to get the word out on the jail district. Saying that, thank you for your time. I appreciate you letting us come talk tonight. Sheriff Masher can come up and probably fill in a lot of the holes that I've left and answer any questions. And more importantly, yavapai.jail.org is the website that you can go and get any additional information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Good evening. Scott Masher, Yavapai County Sheriff. I appreciate you letting us come here tonight to provide this information. I just wanted to give a little bit of information on operational issues, and I think you've probably heard, I don't need to tell you, but from your own chief of police, the difficulties that we faced in law enforcement and public safety when the Prescott jail was closed down. A small town, I live here in Chino myself. I realized that when an officer would make an arrest and have to transport that person to the other side of the mountain over into the Verde Valley, they were off the street for hours, 4 or 5 hours. And not only was that in Chino Valley, but that occurred in Prescott Valley. That occurred with the sheriff's office, my own agency. If I had deputies arresting people down in Congress by Wickenburg or Seligman, wherever it was a real issue for us to deal with. I was very happy that we were able to get some funding federally for the work we were doing with detaining illegal immigrants. The monies that I received there was for salary reimbursements, and we were able to open the Prescott jail at first part-time. 12 hours a day for 6 months or so. That helped us tremendously. We then went to 24 hours. We're not doing any kind of full-time jail service there. It's just bookings. And unfortunately, we can't book all the inmates. If we get violent, serious offenders, we have pretty much a skeleton crew in Prescott. So we still have to, whether it's Chino, Prescott Valley, or ourselves at the sheriff's office, are having to go to the Verde. As Phil mentioned about the Prescott Jail, I just wanted to say a couple things about that. That's one of the big questions I get. Just go ahead and reopen it. You know, Phil said it doesn't fit our long-term needs. Well, it really doesn't even fit our short-term needs. Today, we are actually overcrowded in Camp Verde with the inmates we have there now. And the majority of our inmates that are arrested and go to court are over here. So if we were to take those inmates today and bring them over, we would have 250 plus inmates we would have to bring over here and house, and the Prescott Jail is 120 beds. So it really isn't going to work for us with the beds available. The other issue we have with it is it doesn't actually meet current building codes to standard, especially fire suppression. We have some real concerns there with the old outdated fire suppression system. So I don't think it's financially feasible for the county to put a lot of money into Prescott when it doesn't meet the short-term or long-term needs. One of the other things I'm asked is, well, how are you managing the population of the jail? Is there people in jail that don't need to be in jail? And I'm telling you that from 2008, where we, and even before that, we had over 650 inmates. Today, we're at about 530. So we've done a lot of work to keep the people in jail that need to be in jail, and the folks who don't, we have many programs and rehab and mental health type services that we provide to keep those out of jail that don't need to be in there. And we're not just housing folks there. I think it's important for me to mention that, and I'm proud of the jail staff for what they do in providing these services to lessen the recidivism rate in the jail. And I think it has worked for us, especially in the mental health field, where we've gotten some national awards for the programs we have in the jail and the monies we've saved. We've also had counties all around Arizona send us inmates who need some mental health treatment. It saves them money, and it actually generates funds for us to offset some of the shortfalls that we have. So I did go to the Board of Supervisors. I've been talking with them for well over a year now, probably 2 years, explaining the need, going over how we're managing the population. We have generated a lot of funds over the years. The Camp Verde jail is completely paid for now. We were able to get that jail completely paid for. A lot came from the funds we raised. I think probably up around $8 million plus the sheriff's office has generated in revenues from bed rentals and other special revenue programs. That's a lot of money that I really don't have a statutory obligation to do, but we're trying to be as fiscally accountable as we can. So I appreciate the Board of Supervisors unanimously supporting this. I've endorsed it as well, obviously, and I really appreciate you giving us some time to come in today and just be informative as to what we're doing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, or the public or anyone on the issue.
Okay. I'll open it to our council. Do we have any questions on this side? Yes, sir.
It looks like with all the good things, you know, that you're talking about that are going on and improving the structure and the way things are run, the scale's still going up.
Yes.
So what, in your mind, in your opinion, being the professional, what's the answer? I mean, does it just continue to go?
No, actually, you know, what I took a look at, and I actually did a kind of a staff study, when we saw that huge downturn in the economy, you would think, at least I did with some common sense, I thought, that with such a downturn, the crime may go up. And many places it did in the country, but it didn't in Yavapai County. It actually went down, which was kind of interesting, I thought. So we really couldn't correlate crime and the economy. But I think what I am starting to see is we're starting to see an increase in the economy now. Things are starting to pick up. We're starting to see building permits. We're starting to see increase in retail sales. We're starting to see people come back into the area, and I think that brings in more work, more people, more activity. And so that's what I'm tending to believe at this point is in the past, when the economy was really booming and the population was in Yavapai County coming in at about 10% plus a year, our crime rate was really going up, and so was the population of the jail. If that answers your question. It's hard to judge it, but.
Well, that was one of the questions. We really aren't, as an area, we are not growing that much in population, but you still see these numbers go up, and
Right.
it really makes you wonder why.
We are starting to see some increase in certain areas, maybe not right here, but in some areas of the county, we're starting to see the building permits come back in and the tourism pick up and the sales tax and revenues are starting to pick up, which is a good sign, I think, for us. And
Okay.
Thank you.
you bet.
Others? Yes, ma'am.
Along with that, you answered part of my question, but part of my question would be, is there a particular type of crime increase that you're seeing that you're ending up housing?
Well, what we have seen, and unfortunately, some sex offender type crimes, we've seen an increase in thefts, but the serious, more violent type crimes was some of our sexual offenses, John. I think if I remember, assaults, sexual assaults kind of thing countywide, some more serious, violent. I think when I spoke with Judge Mackey last week, he told me he saw a 4% increase in those kind of serious felony filings in the courts. The misdemeanors, the lesser crimes in our jail population is very minimal. I think today when I looked, we had 50-some misdemeanors with an average stay of about 3 days. Other than the ones who are sentenced for DUIs, domestic violence, which are mandatory sentences for only up to 3 days or so. But we're primarily felony serious offenders is what we have in jail.
Cool. Did you have a backup question?
I'm good, thank you.
No? Okay. Any others, Mr. Woods? No? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If any of our audience have any questions, yavapaijail.org, or I'm sure Sheriff Masher would be happy to visit with you, or you could speed through town and probably have a sheriff deputy visit with you. So,
Thank you very
thought.
much for having us here tonight to provide the information. Appreciate it.
All right. Next portion of our meeting is call to the public. Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council concerning a subject that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. Total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. Do we have anyone for call to the public? Yes, sir. You spoke to me before the meeting? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And please state your name, if you would. And there's several hands in the back, so.
My name's Ed Twitmeyer. You have to excuse me, I got bad vertigo. When I first get up, I get dizzy, otherwise I can walk all right. I bought a house on East Aztec Drive 3 years ago. It was washboarded very bad. I had to have the city come out, because it was a city street. I went down and checked it out, to take a culvert pipe out and replace my culvert pipe, because the culvert was packed so deep, I couldn't even get to the aid approval loan, because all the water was running back between the garage and the house, right straight in the septic tank. They come out and fixed it. I said, well, when would you people be able to please grade this street? We don't have any funds. Okay? People on that street gave up their property, their easement, for a street to be maintained. When I moved there, the man that lives right at the dead end of the cul-de-sac been there for 40 years. Said the last time anybody did anything with this street was 10 years ago.
Sir, if you would.
Well, now
Sir,
it's 3 years
excuse
ago.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Sir, if you would please address the council.
Oh, I
That's
thought
all.
it was-
Okay. No. if you would, go ahead.
I'd just like to know when they can get around to doing it, because otherwise, I think they ought to put a water truck out there. All the people to the north side get dusted to death with the vehicles going up and down, and that's all Roadrunner Trailer Park, where Doug's A-frame is. 90% of them are on oxygen and in bad health. I live on the east side of it, but the wind goes like this. I'm allergic to anything that grows. And I just like to get a water truck out there and maybe send my bill to the city to tighten my truck back up so it don't rattle.
Yes, sir. Okay. And that's on East Aztec Drive near the Roadrunner Trailer Park.
Now, it's between 1 and 2 North. The first street that goes west. It's the only street that goes west. Right between the two. And I'd love to see you people drive down there and tell me what you think about it in your mind.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Anyone else for call to the public? Yes, sir.
My name is Robert McCauley. I'm a resident of Chino Valley, mayor and council. While serving on a recent committee, I was privy to a large amount of information, most of which came to the committee members when we arrived to attend our meetings. This did not allow us the opportunity to look over, study, and digest this detailed information in advance. Kind of a dazzle and baffle scenario, similar to what the council is, is experiencing now. Too often, the answers given to questions from the committee were dizzying. There was a lot of spin, fancy footwork, and distracting questions, but no real answers. So tonight, I am asking for answers, not snow jobs, nor sidesteps. In response to a question at a previous council meeting, Mr. Duffy reported on the town's indebtedness. I would like to thank Mr. Duffy for a report that is easy to read and easy to follow. The dilemma is that this report has raised substantial questions. We have a $7.3 million U.S. bank loan, $6.4 million in WIFA loans, $4.4 million in USDA loans. All these loans have words in common. These words being wastewater system improvements. In essence, we have $18.1 million in loans for a wastewater system that we do not own. Yes, some of these loans were used to retire previous bonds, but the rest, $10.9 million, state specifically wastewater improvements. I know this council had nothing to do with these expenditures, but I think the citizens of Chino Valley deserve a complete, comprehensive, and accurate explanation of these expenditures. I also realize that to be complete, the answers may take some time and may not be able to be presented in response to the public. At this juncture of our town's history, I feel complete and total transparency is needed. No more spin, dazzle, and baffle. A presentation by Mr. Duffy accurately explained how the town spent $10.8 million off loans designated for wastewater system improvements is essential. Thank you, council, for your time, and I hope to receive an answer.
Thank you. Our town manager, if he would, please follow up on that. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, next for call to the public. Yes, ma'am. I believe I've seen you before. I think so.
My name is Norma Bennett. I've been in business 30 years in Chino Valley. And guess what? I want to compliment you on how nice Highway 89 looks. The weeds are cut. You can see across the divided highway, and it just looks wonderful. And I want to thank you because it makes our town look a lot better.
Cool. Thank you.
Wow. And I too do not understand all of the sewer plant improvements that we don't own.
Yes, ma'am. Next for call to the public. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Nancy Herrero, and I represent the Senior Center Advisory Board. And I'm here today to invite everyone to the Chino Valley Senior Center's first inaugural Hot July Night Cruise in the park. And it's going to be held Saturday, July 12th from 4 to 8 p.m. in Memory Park here in Chino Valley. And Memory Park is between the Senior Center and the library. And we want to invite everybody to relive history through automobiles. And out here in Chino, we've got such a variety of cars. And we want to make this a really fun community event and a fundraiser for the Senior Center. It's going to be free registration for anybody that brings a vehicle and anybody that wants to come. We will be accepting donations, and we'll be selling 50/50 raffle tickets. And we're also going to be selling hot dogs, hamburgers, and slushies, and popcorn, and water in the park. And we want everybody just to come and enjoy themselves and under the trees on the green grass. And we're also encouraging anybody that's got a hot rod, a vintage truck, a tractor, an antique collector, a high-performance car. And we're not, again, charging anybody that's bringing their vehicles. And we just want to make it a fun 50s, 60s community event. And we're going to have background music. And again, it's going to be held July 12th from 4 to 8 p.m. at Memory Park in Chino Valley. And if anybody has any questions, they could call 636-5310. And we've got a great variety of vehicles out here, and a lot of people who own them have some very interesting backgrounds in working or driving with Indy cars. And so if any young people have any questions about Indy cars, we welcome all of you to come out and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burrow. Next for call to the public. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you. My name is Michael Edmonds. I'm a resident of Chino Valley. I'd like to know from the council if we're going to have any discussion, or if you're going to have any discussion about a revenue bond, and if it could be explained to the townspeople what a revenue bond for the water and sewer would be, how it would work, and if there's a possibility that option could be on the ballot.
Okay.
Thank
you. Thank you. Had to grin because it's sort of like a volleyball game, bump, set, spike. That's okay. All right. The possibility of a revenue bond. Okay, next for call to the public. Anyone? All right, call to the public is now closed. Next item is response to the public. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials address matters raised during call to the public at a previous meeting. And the question that was raised at a previous meeting by one of our citizens was an accounting of the town's current $20 million debt and when it occurred. Mr. Duffy, I believe, is going to be giving that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Mr. McCauley, you're very timely in your request for information. Mr. Smith texted me, and I went ahead and put together a presentation for you this evening. Basically, I'm trying to answer the question, how did Chino Valley get in $20 million in debt, and what was the money used for? And so I went back through all the financial records and all the bond offering documents and pulled the language from there. So I thought I'd just spend a few minutes going over and try to answer some of the questions that we've had so far. Essentially, originally the town had $22,715,000 in debt. They currently owe, as of June 30, 2014, $20,340,000 worth of debt. Now, that's broken up into three major categories. All of these are revenue bonds, and they're paid by either excise taxes or user fees. So the general government debt, we currently owe $10,900,000. The Water Enterprise Fund owes $610,000, and the Sewer Enterprise Fund owes $8,830,000. And this slide basically shows us where the money comes from to pay back this debt. So I wanted to go over that really quick. All the general government debt is secured by excise fees or excise taxes. And your excise taxes are primarily town sales tax that's driving it. It also includes franchise fees and user fees and things like that. But of course, as we know, sales tax is the town's #1 revenue source. Now, the Water Enterprise Fund and the Sewer Enterprise Fund, those are paid back with the user fees. The unfortunate thing, though, with our water fund and our sewer fund is we're not collecting enough user fees to make the debt service payment and continue the operations. Both of these enterprise funds are running into the negative. The sewer enterprise funds has little money in the bank, so we're just slowly nibbling that away. But the water user fund is continually getting money from the general fund to subsidize itself. Now, here's the debt history, and as far back as I could go to where, I don't know if the town borrowed anything prior to this. I don't think so, but I think this is when they started borrowing substantial amounts of money. And the loans in red are the ones that have been refinanced. They call it defeased, but let's just call it refinance because we're all familiar with that, a little more better term. So in 2002, they took out a WIFA loan for $750,000, and that was really to design the sewer system, the major improvements to the sewer system. In 2004, they took out a revenue bond, and that was for the community park, the aquatic center, which when the loan document said Phase 1, and sewer system improvements. In 2007 and 2008, they took out loans from the USDA, 3 individual loans, and basically they'd take out a loan, use it up, take out another loan, use that, take out another loan, and they took out 2 WIFA loans during that time period. Again, it's the same thing. WIFA gave the town a loan, they used the proceeds, and then they took out another loan. So essentially there was 5 loans. But that's where most of the sewer improvement money was spent. There's your $10 million plus right there. And this was for sewer distribution lines, mainly in the Chino Meadows area. In 2007, they took out another basically a little over $5 million for this admin building here, the improvements they made to it, and in the bond documents, it also said Aquatic Center Phase 2. Now, this loan was refinanced in 2010 with the last 2, the U.S. Bank 2010 loans, and a portion of that GATA loan was paid back. So now, of the original $5,015,000, the town only owes $3,825,000. Rolling all that together and defeasing all those, they also paid off the WIFA loan and the 2004 loan. They basically now owe the U.S. Bank loan $7,280,000, and then they borrowed another $745,000 for the purchase of the Cameron property. So in all, the town has issued 10 issues, but currently we do not owe on all of them because we combined one and refinanced with the 2010 issue. Now, here's what we're paying. This is coming straight out of our budget this year, but I thought basically we had the original loan amounts. These are still the loans that are still active. Original loan amounts $22,715,000. We owe the $20,340,000. Next budget year, we're going to pay $704,000 in principal and $828,000 in interest. Now, if you go up to the general government section, you're going to see the U.S. Bank Series 2010. We are not paying principal on that loan, and I'll talk to you folks about that in just a moment. This is our debt service requirements, and this is a little bit leaning into that on why we're not paying principal. As you can see, and this is our total debt service, the blue bars, which are the top bars, are our general government debt. The green bars are our sewer, and then the red bars are our water. And as you can see, the red bars are the little ones just at the very bottom there. In 2025, the water loan is paid off. And in about 2026-27, the sewer loan starts to drop off. So we've got about 12 years left on that. And of course, the general fund is 2031. But for the next 3 fiscal years, our debt service requirements are pretty level. But then they're going to start ticking up, and they're ticking up because of that U.S. Bank 2010 loan. We deferred the principal for 6 years on it. I want to ask the question, I thought about, okay, does Chino Valley have too much debt? And so I pulled a few of the other communities, a little total debt, and I just did a debt per capita. And the answer, if you just looked at us, Cottonwood and Sedona, is no. I mean, we have $1,930 per capita, Cottonwood $4,212, and Sedona $5,000. But if you compare us with Prescott and Prescott Valley, we're right in the same ballpark. Prescott Valley is $1,700, and Prescott is a little over $2,000, $2,100. So are we on the high side? No. I think we're just right in there with Prescott and Prescott Valley. And it's hard to compare other communities on a per capita basis, but we just need something that it's a good look. It's a good thing to say, maybe, okay. I also looked at how does this amount of debt compare to our budget? Well, you have to remember that Chino Valley has a budget between $13 and $15 million a year, depending on what we're doing. And this is without capital projects, so I didn't want to inflate with that. I reduced it by those. And our annual debt service requirements is less than $2 million a year. And really, if you percentage-wise that out, it's between 10 and 12% a year of our total income that we're bringing in goes to debt service. Now, as a homeowner, that's pretty low. And I got a little analysis there. Basically, if you earned, let's say you earned $50,000 a year, it's like having a house payment of $5,000 a year or less than $500 a month. A person earning $5,000 or $50,000 a year can qualify for a $200,000 home. With a payment of about $1,000 a month, so they really could be making $12,000 payment. So for just the average person out there, if you were going to compare a city to them, our debt level is pretty darn low. I want to address this. Is Chino Valley paying principal on all its debt? And the answer is no. The town is paying principal on all of its outstanding loans except for the U.S. Bank Series 2010 loan. And that's until 2018 when it starts ticking up. Well, why? Why isn't it? Well, when the town defeats the 2004 issue, all the debt of the town was analyzed and was structured to minimize the town's cash flow over the next fiscal year. We need to remember that in 2010, the town of Chino Valley was facing a financial crisis, and they were looking under any rock they had, every rock we had, to figure out a way to minimize our cash flow. So is it a common practice? Yes. I've seen it done. In fact, I did it, where I worked before. We did whatever we could. We looked at all of our debt, and we stretched it out to bridge this gap, knowing that the economy wouldn't be down or dead forever. So it was a smart strategic move. In fact, when I started here, the first thing I did is looked at our town's debt, looking to see if maybe we could do this exact same thing to help get us over that bridge or give us over, to where we are today. Revenue bonds versus general geo bonds. I just tried to summarize it, get it down as close as I can. A revenue bond is paid back by a revenue stream. And the revenue streams that are typically used for cities and towns are excise taxes and or user fees. So, and that's exactly how our debt that the town of Chino Valley has right now is structured. So the users to the system pay off the debt. A general obligation bond is assessed to all the debt is paid off by all the property owners within the community or within the district that they're doing, county or whatever. So, and it's levied as a property tax based on each individual owner's assessed value. So people with a very valuable property are going to pay more, people with less value are going to pay less. So it's spread out that way. These are a couple of slides that we presented to the committee during those presentations. And I just wanted to show you, this is if this slide and the next one compare a general obligation bond to pay off the projects that the town, the $13.5 million projects that the town's proposing, or a revenue bond, what it actually does to our enterprise funds. And so what this basically shows us is the blue line is the revenue. And if we paid for all these improvements, acquiring the Prescott water system, the fan buyout, wastewater treatment plant, and the improvements on Highway 89 with a general obligation bond, our rates, our user rates for our sewer system and water system would stay flat for 5 years. It would provide about $500,000 a year in capital funds so that the town could continue to extend the water and sewer system. And it eliminates the subsidy to the general fund. Because right now, the general fund is subsidizing the utility fund. It's subsidizing the water now, but if we continue at the rate we're going to go, it's going to also be subsidizing the sewer fund. And that takes money from roads and police and all the other general fund services that we have. If we use a revenue bond, essentially the burden of the debt falls back onto the users. And what this does is the rate increases continue, not quite as much, but not much less for all the users. And basically in 2 to 3 years, we'll be analyzing again to see how much more they go up, but they're still going to go up. Provides no additional capital monies for water and sewer extensions, and it does not eliminate the general fund subsidy. And in fact, we have it breaking even in 17-18, 18-19, and the reality is it's just barely breaking even. So if the town's intends to get the utility funds stable and healthy, the revenue bond scenario does not accomplish that.
Excuse me for a second. Did you have a question, Ms. Smiley?
I'm just becoming concerned because the presentation is far beyond the scope of the agenda item, which was the current $20 million debt and when it occurred. So I think that while this presentation is very interesting and informative,
You bet.
I'm afraid we're going to have to cut it short and possibly put it on the agenda for a different meeting.
Okay.
I am actually complete.
Excellent. Thank you.
So perfect
Thank
timing.
I don't know if I can ask a question or not.
Oh, yeah.
As long as it
we
relates
can-
to the issue, right?
We can still entertain a question to it, I believe.
Well, I don't
yes,
know,
ma'am.
if not, can you go back to your slide about debt per capita? Okay, I think I've discussed this with you before, that debt per capita probably is not, because when you compare it, a good way to do this, because when you compare it to other communities have additional resources of income. For instance, Cottonwood has substantial income from tourism, from other sources, and so comparing our debt per capita, per person, with Cottonwood is probably, it makes a good slide, but it's probably not a very good accurate portrayal of the real picture.
Yeah,
Okay, and we are beyond the
And we've wandered too far. Will this be up on the website, Mr. Duffy?
I can put it up there, yes,
Okay,
sir.
if we can do that, thank you.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right. That'll answer a few folks' questions. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Smiley. Current event summaries and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor, any council member, or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events or ask a staff member to provide the same. Presentation on information requested by the mayor and council will be made and questions answered. No action will be taken. Do we have any reports on this side? No. Do we have any reports on this side?
Sure, I'll say a little bit about
Yes, sir.
the fourth.
Okay.
Just want to say a little bit about our 4th of July celebration that's coming up. We will be doing this again for the second straight year at the Community Center Park. And this will be on the 4th of July, which this year is a Friday, so it should be a little more, little easier for folks to attend and bring their families in and enjoy themselves. We will have food, drink, games and things, entertainment, just as we did last year. And I think there's a lot of fun to be had by all. I've already twisted the arm of our mayor to come and help us with the dunk tank. And I've also just twisted a little bit, waiting for comment for our county supervisor, Mr. Brown, to come and join us also. So everybody, tell your friends and your neighbors, and come on out and enjoy the time with us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
At the community park.
That'll be at the community park. Okay. Mr. Smith, did you have a
Mayor, if it's
report?
acceptable, I'll yield my time to Ruth Mayday, the town planner.
Okay. Miss Mayday?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Robert has asked me to give you a brief update on the status of the EDA grant that we had talked about previously. For those who don't know what this is an Economic Development Administration grant through the federal government for economic development out at Old Home Manor. When we previously submitted the pre-app, we were told that we need to come back with a bigger project, so we are in the process of doing that. Since that time, we had also submitted a grant to the Arizona Commerce Authority for a $500,000 grant for a match to the EDA, and that grant was not funded last round, which was in May. Actually, their application was due after the EDA, so we, in essence, would not have qualified because we didn't have the match in hand, which is what the federal government requires. This time, we are working closely with the ACA, excuse me, to make sure that we have everything in order to get to that funding when they announce another round in July and award in mid-August, which is the perfect timeline to set us up to have that match available for the October round for the EDA. In addition, we're looking at some other funding sources, including the Rural Business Opportunity Grant round that's due shortly to do some additional work. And in talking with the EDA, they've advised us that we can, in fact, use state special project funds from Arizona Department of Housing for economic purposes and to use as part of the match for this program because it's awarded on a competitive basis rather than as an entitlement community. So we are steadily working towards that October submittal date to make sure that we get everything in order. I've been in contact with NACOG and discussing whether or not we're going to need to go back up and talk to them about this project again. So it is continuing to go forward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, ma'am, you have a question?
When did you talk with NACOG? Because I spoke with Terry Drew today, and she had not been contacted by you.
I sent her an email yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
If I may, by way of a reminder for our staff and our group, the EDC, the Economic Development Committee, which is a subcommittee of NACOG, is the required committee by the EDA. They are the liaison, they are the regional area. And if I might remind everyone, every time this town does something and makes a change, they have to approve the grant, they have to make the recommendation, even though you're dealing directly with EDA. It is a requirement. And, you know, we need to keep in contact with Terry Drew and that organization and keep them updated as to what's going on.
And we are.
You know, you need to make sure from here on out, one email in all that period of time.
Oh, no,
Because when
there's
I
been a
talked
couple
to
of
her-
follow-up phone calls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked to her the other day, and I talked to her today, and she'd not received anything. So again, I would encourage you.
Sure. I'll be
All
happy
right.
to forward you the email I sent her yesterday.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent, thank you. Any others? Okay, fine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving forward to our consent agenda. All those items listed below are considered to be routine, may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. Does anyone on this side of the council wish to remove any items? No. Anyone on this side? No. Ms. Hart, would you read our consent agenda items?
Okay. 6A, consideration and possible action to appoint applicants to fill vacancies on various public bodies. And then 6B, consideration and possible action to approve the annual intergovernmental agreement, IGA, for the establishment of unified emergency management between the town of Chino Valley and Yavapai County, and authorize payment of the annual dues in the amount of $4,651.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll be moving into executive session here in a few moments. I'm going to go ahead and read the items, and then I'd like to call just a 5-minute recess so we can get up and stretch after all the reports here. Council may vote to recess the regular meeting and hold an executive session, which will not be open to the public for the following purposes. An executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 for discussion or consultation with the town attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position regarding a settlement and release agreement with Fan Contracting Incorporated related to the construction of the wastewater treatment plant, and for discussion or consultation with the town attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position regarding an asset purchase agreement and escrow instructions agreement with the city of Prescott related to the acquisition of certain water delivery facilities. Item B is an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and 7 for discussion or consultation for legal advice with the town attorney regarding the right-of-way easement along the proposed extension of Road 1 East, and for discussions or consultations with designated representatives of the town in order to consider its position and instruct its representatives regarding negotiations for the purchase, sale, or lease of real property located along the proposed extension of Road 1 East between Road 4 South and Kalanich, and to consider a proposal from property owner Steve Chontos related to Yavapai County Assessor's parcel number 102-01-223E, one of the properties located within the project boundaries. The chair would entertain a motion to recess to executive session after a 5-minute recess.
Motion to recess the regular meeting and hold an executive session after a 5-minute recess.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We're recessed for 5 minutes, and then we'll meet in the
We're taking 5, is that correct?
It's 3 now.
3.
I was just thinking the same thing. What have they been doing out there?
Shoot, where's my agenda? I have a working agenda and then
What's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's roll.
Turn on your microphones if you would.
Microphone's on.
Okay, we're back in session from executive session. Item A, we have instructed or received consultation from our town attorney in regards to settlement and release agreement with Fan Contracting. We've also received instruction from our town attorney regarding an asset purchase agreement and escrow instructions agreement with the city of Prescott related to the acquisition of certain water delivery facilities. As far as item B is concerned, we've received an offer by a property owner for the town to acquire fee ownership of easement property, and those negotiations will continue. Moving onward to action items, I believe one of our council members wanted to move item Echo up to the top of the queue. Is that correct,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Croft?
Make
If
a
you
motion to move item Echo to the, in front of item A on action item.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to move item E, consideration and possible action to adopt a motion to accept previously dedicated and recorded roadway easements related to the Road 1 East roadway project over Yavapai County Assessor parcels 102-01-001M, formerly known as 102-01-01M. Also 102-01-214C, 102-01-219G, formerly known as 102-01-01 West, 102-01-219H, formerly known as 102-01-01R, 102-01-223 East, formerly known as 102-01-01K, 102-01-216A, 102-01-216. Do we have a motion?
Move to accept previously dedicated and recorded roadway easements relating to the Road 1 East roadway project over Yavapai County Assessor Parcels 102-01-001M, formerly known as 102-01-01M, 102-01-214C, 102-01-219G, formerly known as 102-01-01W, 102-01-219H, formerly known as 102-01-01R, 102-01-223E, formerly known as 102-01-01K, 102-01-216A, 102-01-216.
We have a motion. I will not ask for that to be repeated. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Are you going to allow any discussion on these motions from the audience?
I was not planning on it.
I have a lot involved.
Hold tight for just a second. Let me ask the council's thoughts on this. I am allowed to by Robert's Rules of Order. Council, we traditionally have had, we read an item, we have presentations or reports, which we have had a fair number regarding this particular item. And we also have optional public input. We can have discussion in favor and opposition to. If it please the council, we will allow one of each in the interest of expediency. Yes, ma'am?
I'm not sure if it's for or against, if he's talking about his individual parcel. I'm confused by, I'm not sure, well.
Well, he can speak for or against the acceptation of those roadway easements.
Okay.
Okay? And I assume you will stay within those bounds, Mr. Chantos, acceptation of those roadway easements. And I believe we had a person here earlier that wished to speak for that. So, Mr. Chantos, you're first. And please, if you would, keep your comments brief and to the point.
Before proceeding, I want to correct the term that the town has been using in regards to these easements. Namely, quote, previously dedicated easements. I've given you definitions in Arizona Supreme Court case defining dedications. You should have received them. The easement across my property is not a previously dedicated easement. As far as the public using that strip of land as a road, this is also erroneous. About 7 years ago, the contractor who was building the roundabout rented a piece of land behind Windy Valley Plaza to store their equipment. They wanted to come in the back way so they wouldn't interfere with the job out front. Chino Valley Public Works gave them permission to spread millings out on that strip of land, the 50-foot wide, from 4 south for 1,000 feet across the lands of Irene Karsick without her knowledge. Today, that land is still without easement or rights to a town. This was a trespass. The ADOT engineer, Alvin Stump, admitted it was a trespass and suggested that he be dug up.
Excuse me.
I'm going to call a point of
Yeah,
order
point of
because
order.
we're talking about this specific item that deals with your property, not anybody else's property.
Okay.
Please control it and talk
Okay.
about your-
Mr. Mayor?
We're, excuse me for a second. We are dealing with the acceptation of all these easements, former supposed trespasses, where millings went, any of that stuff. Please, Mr. Chantos, as I said, brief and to the point, but before you do, Ms. Hatch, you had something.
Yeah, well, and I hesitate to say this, the easement, Karsick's property is not part of the easement that we're interested in accepting tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, continue.
Well, the connection is that that piece of property gives access to these easements. And when that Karsick property was blacktopped, it became traveled by a group that were scavenger hunters. I don't know if you ever heard of a national group of retired folks that go out and scavenger hunt. And
Please,
that,
Mr.
they're the
Thomas.
ones that use that easement. And that is the only people that ever travel that easement property. It was not done publicly.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I would want to say.
Okay. Ma'am, I believe you're next. Please state your name, if you would.
Good evening. My name is Kelly McCready with the Windy Valley Plaza. I just want to let you guys know that we have always been in support of the proposed roadways on Road 1 East. Since we first purchased the property and started building on the property, we have known of these easements, and it has always seemed to have been the county plan that these roads, that 1 East should extend south, as well as the easement through our property. So we're very much in support of this finally coming to pass and easing some of the traffic on the Highway 89, giving a little more, a better traffic flow for the town on the south side, but very, very much in support of it.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. All right. We've received one before, or one against and one for. The comments from the public are now closed. Is there any council discussion? Yes, ma'am.
You know, I would just state that the council has already approved a roadway. As the mayor stated earlier, we had an offer from one of the property owners to deed over in fee a portion of his parcel, and we're going to continue with those negotiations. The issue we're considering tonight is not whether to build the roadway, but whether or not to accept a portion of those easements, which wouldn't affect, we're still going to continue to negotiate with at least one individual. What we're doing now is doing a process that may, depending on how you read the case law, resolve the issue of whether or not there is a dedication or there was.
Okay.
Am I
Right.
off base?
You're right on the money, that we're not deciding tonight whether to build the road. This
We've
is
already
simply-
decided that.
Right,
The question is
simply
what
acceptance.
time- yeah.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further council discussion, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't know how the council feels about this, but I would like to, since we're going to have a study session in about 7 days, I would like to table this item A, if that please the council. We're still going to have another study session on it. Town manager, do you have anything absolutely pressing tonight? I know Mr. Cafizo couldn't make it, and
Yes, Mayor Marley, thank you. We look forward to receiving council's thoughts on the draft that has been handed to them.
You bet.
And we will have feedback for you ready Thursday night when you have your study session.
okay, thank you very much. Item Bravo, consideration and possible action to discuss proposition for general tax bond for ballot. I'd like to just speak briefly to our audience in Elected Official 101, which is taught by our League of Cities and Towns. We are instructed that we are not required to allow public input during our meetings. The public is required by law, or we are required by law, to have open meetings to where our deliberations can be observed, but we're not required to take input from the public. What we do have at the beginning of our council meetings is what's called Call to the Public, where we allow the public to address the council on subjects. And we also, since I've been in office, we have instituted response to the public, because former councils did not oftentimes formally address what the citizens' complaints or concerns. And so we have begun with this response to the public to provide open answers to those folks. This evening, we've been asked to allow a member of the public, I believe, Mr. Wojcik, I believe you're one of the sponsors of this, is that correct? And were you going to have one of the members of the public speak to us regarding this subject, or were you going to do the presentation?
No, a member of the public.
Okay, this is, as I said, I wanted to instruct our public to understand that this is not how we regularly do business, but this has been a request of Councilwoman McKee and Councilman Wojcik to have a member of the public come and speak to us regarding this particular item. The item itself is consideration and possible action to discuss a proposition for general tax bond for ballot. And before we have our guest come up and speak, I'd like to remind our council, when we bring forth an item, it needs to be completely vetted, and we need to have the information. If you would, this is the second warning for our council. If we bring forth any other items that are not completely vetted, that we don't have the information on, I'm going to ask our council to remove them until we do have that information. Is that understood by our council? It's really important that we be able to ask intelligent questions regarding a subject that's brought up. So wanted to remind our council, once again, just a housekeeping item. Okay, Mr. Wojcik, I believe you're on.
Me?
Yes, sir.
The
Okay.
public is.
You were going to invite someone to
Okay,
speak,
Mr.
I believe.
Santos is the one that's going to be asking the questions and involving the discussion on this topic.
Yes, sir.
I asked two of the members of the council to be allowed to speak as an agenda item, and they're just honoring my request.
Yes, sir.
I'm here to ask is, the council, is what has happened to the revenue bond option? This general obligation bond is wrong. It's forcing me to pay for sewer and water service that I can't even make use of, even if I wanted to.
Madam,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Marley, I'm sorry. I need to clarify something. Has the council already approved sending the general obligation bond to the voters?
I believe we have, ma'am.
Okay, then I'm going to have to stop any reference to that item because at this point, the town cannot use town resources to influence the outcome of election. Mr. Chantos's presentation against the measure that's going to be on the ballot would be using the town resources. That would be the town council chambers, the microphone, the broadcast over the, over the, your broadcast of this,
Over.
the video, everything, would be using those town resources in an attempt to speak against an item that's going to be on the ballot. So if you can limit your comments to what is on the agenda, which is discuss a proposition for a general tax bond for the ballot, and limit your discussion to that, then that would probably be okay. But you cannot discuss the one that's already on the ballot.
Okay.
Can I discuss the conduct of the council?
That's not on the agenda.
It's on my agenda.
Well, as
I'm sorry, we have to
chairman,
follow the open meeting laws, so,
Because I would ask that any member of the council that is hooked up to the water system or the sewer system abstain from any further participation in this general bond issue. But are you going to say that I can't do that?
excuse me for a second, Mr. Chantos. One thing that I do not want and cannot allow as chairman is to where we have nothing but an interaction with folks here to where this, ever since Jerry Springer left the business, I know people have wanted that kind of stuff to happen. We don't need that. We need to be conducting the town's business. I believe Ms. Smiley and I spoke regarding conflict of interest before, and any of us that are involved in a group that is larger than 10, is that not correct, Ms. Smiley?
that would be one of the exceptions.
Okay. We, because some of the council members are on the sewer system and some of the council members are not, that would keep us all from being involved in it. But if you have something where you would like to speak to a specific revenue bond, that'd be great. If not, you can feel free to visit with each of us. Hang on for a second, ma'am. Visit with each of the council members individually, or visit with and you wouldn't be using town resources if you spoke with our
Well, can I
news reporter.
make a recommendation to the council to go, in addition to what it is voted to do, to go to another direction for the same November 4th meeting? Can I do
I
that?
believe he can do that, can he not?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Why don't you reduce the scope of your plans and put a $4 million bond issue before the town? Then you could buy the sewer plant and have extra money to extend sewer lines to people who are already here. According to the figures that I saw presented to the council on May 15th, you would have a viable self-sustaining utility. In a couple of years of practice, you could consider buying all of the wastewater, the water facilities. And that way, you would only be increasing the town's already $22 million debt by a much smaller amount. This is a good plan. It's simple and creates surpluses for growth. And it's financed by the users without a property tax. This is the best chance for the users, for the user fees to stabilize and even go down. You'll even eventually be able to lower hookup fees in the not-too-distant future. The plant right now is about half capacity, so there's no problem there. So my suggestion is go for this $4 million revenue bond just to buy the sewer plant and put it on the same ballot and give the voters of Chino a choice.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Hopefully, we didn't violate any, any laws with that one. All right. Yes, ma'am.
If I could just clarify the part about how council can continue to participate even though they're on sewer and water. The rule is that if there are more than 10 people involved in a situation and a council member is one of those 10, or one of the greater than 10, that a council member can participate without conflict. Is that correct? Thank you.
Okay, that's what I was talking with Ms. Smiley about, but thank you. All right. Okay, that was B. That was our a discussion item. Item C, consideration and possible action to authorize the mayor to sign the protocol agreement and project tracking policy between the town of Chino Valley and the Greater Prescott Regional Economic Partnership Business Action Team. Ms. Mayday, I believe you were next.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have an action to authorize the mayor to sign these agreements. This is part of the ongoing operations with the GPREP, the Greater Prescott Regional Economic Partnership, that will allow us to work together with other communities in doing some economic development and get some help from GPREP in doing some marketing activities and tasks. So the staff brief pretty much explains the detail, and I would be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay. Essentially, these are the rules of engagement with which we
yes.
interact with GPREP.
Right. There are things that we can do without their help. There are things that we do with their help. There are things they will help us and other communities with. So it's nice to have the whole area working together, and this kind of helps seal that deal between all of the communities.
You bet. And just briefly, I might add on, it's really nice to have cooperation between the communities up here. This has been a long-awaited item. So, any questions for Ms. Mayday? Okay. No. Chair would entertain a motion.
Authorize the mayor to sign the protocol agreement and project tracking policy between the town of Chino Valley and the Greater Prescott Regional Economic Business Action Team.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D, consideration and possible action to amend Section 4.21.7, temporary signs, and Section 4.21.11, prohibited signs, previously authorized by the adoption of Ordinance 10-726 with modifications.
Yes, Mayor and Council, you looked at this at the previous, or the prior meeting. The attorney and I had talked briefly about redoing this as some amendments to the UDO rather than amending a previously adopted ordinance. However, given the impact that this has had on the business community and the process that it would take to be able to go back and amend the UDO rather than just adopt the amended ordinance and extend the grace period for the use of these signs, we've decided to move forward with this the way that it was previously presented.
Okay. Any questions? This has been before us several times now, so. And no further questions. The chair would, yes, ma'am.
On item 5, temporarily suspend the regulations, 4.21.11 E and I.
Mm-hmm.
How long is temporary?
The time frame we have set is 18 months.
or the January 1st, 2016, or the revision of Section 4.21 sign regulations, whichever first occurs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All
Motion
right.
to amend the language of section 4.21.7 temporary signs and 4.21.11 prohibited signs as recommended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion to adjourn. Oh,
So moved.
okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Been wanting to motion.